Okay. Take a wild guess. This is one income source. Now he's got personal investments, other stuff. I know he does well. From one income source, Ken Griffin makes $100 million a month. A month from one income source. I don't even know what I would do with imagine every month you're getting $100 million a month paycheck. Like I can't even fathom. Like, you have to have a whole team of people to like manage your own. Anyways, just crazy. That's how much money is generated in the world of funds, okay? In running hedge funds. That's why this is one of the most lucrative, I mentioned in the last video, one of the lucrative vehicles on the planet. There is so much wealth created in funds. And the people who run funds can generate this kind of income. If you're going to dedicate your life to something, right? For the next year, 5 years, 20 years, you might as well pick a vehicle. Again, I'm talking about vehicle of businesses, right? You could pick a vehicle of a restaurant. You could be a restaurant owner. You could pick a vehicle of running car dealerships. If you're going to dedicate 20 years to make, because that's what, it's going to take a lot of time to make something really great and something, big. You might as well dedicate it to something that can be massive, something that can be huge, that doesn't have a cap, that you're not capped out on so many dealerships or, restaurant margins are so thin, right? You might as well go big. All right. So is that making sense? This is what the basic of fun. Now let's go a little bit deeper. Let's go you guys ready? You good? You get to go one layer deeper. All right, let's get into it. Okay. One layer deeper here on what a fund is and how to use them, why they're what's pros and cons of funds. How does this all look? Now I'm gonna play a very common scenario for you that we see, and I'm actually gonna use an example of a buddy of mine. Okay, buddy of mine, his name's Brent. Brent Mai is an awesome dude. He's actually now one of our coaches in Plattsburgh, which is crazy. He's an awesome dude. Brent, when he first joined, he was flipping about 2 to 3 homes a year. Any house flippers out there? Okay, 2 to 3 homes a year. Now that made a good income. This is what he would do, right? He would go find a house. Here's our house. He'd say, wow, this is a great house. Okay, we're going to go we got to buy this house somewhere. So we're going to use either his own money. So I'm going to call it me money. Use your own money. You're going to find investors. You're going to use hard money, or you're going to use bank money. Right here. This is your money stage. And oftentimes it's a mix of all four, right? You're using a little bit of your own, a little bit of hard money, a little bit of investor, a little bit of bank money, right? Put it all together. He would then go set up an entity. Let's just say it's an LLC. Investors would put money in. He's got to negotiate, get the contracts, get all this money together. He'd finally get the money together. They'd put it in an LLC. The LLC would then go and he'd actually flip the house. And we've all seen the TV show. They do the flip and they film it and it's great, whatever they do on the house flip. Then he'd make money. He'd pay back his investors. And then he would go start again and find another house. Now, he'd find a new house and say, oh, it's a great house. He'd have to go back to the hard money. You have to renegotiate, have to get investors, maybe investors are, sorry, I can't put money in this time, whatever it is. He'd go to a bank and then he would repeat this process. And he would do this about 2 to 3 times a year. Each house, he would make anywhere from 10 grand to maybe 100 grand. And, he was making a decent income. This is what I like to call the syndication loop. Brent was syndicating money, putting it together, actually pooling money together. And he was doing it in a loop, right? I call it a loop where you're syndicating again. Now, Brent met with us. We started to work with him and we said, Brent, you should think about doing a fund. And Brent went out and set up a fund. This year, Brent is flipping 72 homes. And he's raised about $5 million to do this. He went from 2 to 3 homes a year to 72 homes. How? Okay, how do you do that? Right now his income's soaring like crazy. How'd you do that? Because he had a fund. Now let me walk you through it here. Instead of looping every time, instead of trying to go back to these investors, try to raise money, all that kind of stuff, he set up a fund. And so right here, he said, I'm going to do a fund. This is our fund here, and I'll talk more about the mechanics of a fund. He set up the fund. He got his LPA in there and his PPM, his documents, all that kind of stuff figured out. He raised money once. He went out and found, all these investors, he actually did it in about 2 weeks. He raised $5 million. It was awesome. And now out of the fund, he can go flip these represent homes here, as many homes as he wants. He doesn't have to go renegotiate, go talk to investors. He finds a house that he likes. He buys it that day. Do you think if you're a house flipper, you would win more contracts or lose more contracts if you had a fund behind you. You'd probably win a few more because back when he was doing this, he'd find a house. He'd say, hey, give me a couple days. I got to go talk to my investors. You go talk to the investors, come back. They'd get the whole thing. He'd have to wait maybe 10 days. If he's very fast, probably 10 days to get it all together. In a fund, he shows up to the courthouse with proof of funds, a cashier check. Hey, I'm ready to close. So Brent started to win more deals, number one, and win them at discounts. And started to scale into bigger properties that he previously couldn't do. Now, Brent decided to do this with single family homes. A lot of people in real estate end up going to bigger properties because when you're doing single family homes, everybody and their dog can get together a couple $100,000, grandma, friends, whatever, and go flip a duplex, right? A lot of people can do that. There's a lot of bidders right now. You go out and bid. I went to a duplex about 6 months ago. I walk in, I'm ready to bid. I'm there, me and my wife, like, hey, let's buy this duplex. Real estate, personal investment, whatever. They had an open house from 4 to 6 p.m. Over 40 investors came to look at the property. They had over 20 offers that night on the property. I think they had seven offers in cash, okay, over asking price. And I was like, man, this is hard to compete on the duplex because, again, a lot of people can get together $400,000, $500,000, whatever it was for that duplex to do this. Very few people can get together $20 million to go bid on a big apartment complex, right? So because of that supply and demand, you have less bidders at an auction. You can actually find more deals. Most people in real estate, I think Brent's pivoting to this now, where you now scale up to bigger deals, bigger investments, because less bidders, you can leverage banks more. And guess what? The work to flip a duplex is kind of the same amount of work for you to flip a 200 unit apartment complex, because you can hire teams now. You have economies of scale. Okay. That's the beauty of scaling a fund. You raise capital once, you set up your entities once, and now you can go scale and flip like he did 72 homes. Is that making a little bit of sense? You guys following along a little bit? Like, isn't that kind of cool? This is why most people that are successful in finance end up running a fund. This is why they do it. They get into this game. This is like the piece of it. This is the key. Now, additionally, let's go through pros and cons a little bit, okay? Now, I'm not saying syndications are bad. I actually like the syndication loop. I think it's a good thing to have. I think it gets a lot of people off the ground, okay? It's a great way to build a track record because syndications, investors are investing directly into one deal. They get to see the deal. They get to look at it. They get to really hone in. In a fund, they're kind of trusting you to go out and find, as many deals as they like. Okay. So let's go pros and cons real quick. So pro of a syndication, usually a little bit faster to set up the first one. If you're going to do one deal, a fund will take a little bit to, get all your documents and everything set up. It takes a little bit of time to set up the first time. Now, once a fund is set up, transacting on more deals, very quick. But your first syndication is easier. Usually investors like to invest directly into the deal. Okay. So we tell everybody on our stuff, if you're just getting started, maybe start with a syndication. Start with 1 or 2 syndications, get your feet wet and get practiced in this space. So that's a pro for that. Now, a con on syndications is that, again, investors are directly on the deal. So if you have you've got a flip going on right here, and an investor calls you up. Hey, Bridger, I didn't pay my taxes last year, and sorry, can you sell the property early? I need to get some money out. I got to pay taxes. And in a syndication, they have some teeth. They have some leverage. They can ask you to do something like that, and you go, shoot, the property isn't ready to sell, but I guess I'll sell it for you because you're my syndicator. Inside of a fund, if one of your investors calls you up, hey, Bridger, I didn't pay taxes last year. Can you sell some properties, get me out? And you say, no, sorry. The properties are not ready to sell yet. We're still working on them. We're now into 72 properties. The answer is no. It's tough. I'm sorry that you didn't manage, and you have less so pros and cons, more liability on the syndication. You're kind of partners with these investors. In a fund, you're protected way more than a fund. This is why 8 guys and gals out of Wall Street can manage billions of dollars because of the protections a fund allows you to have. Now, I already said this before, a fund allows you to scale. The scalability is huge. Again, this is why people, that's a big pro, ding, 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 for funds, is the scalability. Syndications, great to build a track record, hard to scale to, a significant level. Yes, you can do big syndications, but it's just harder and harder to scale. All right, now that you finished today's training, I actually want to show you